Proponents of Proposition 8 are claiming that the reason why they're supporting this measure is because of religious liberty. Would you care to comment on that opinion? And number two, proponents are also suggesting that they will be pushing for a ballot in 2012 regarding this same issue. And I was wondering is that something under consideration?
Well, I'll say something about religious liberty. They didn't mention that during the trial. They had a 12-day trial. They could have put on any witnesses they wanted. This case is not about religious liberty. It doesn't inhibit anybody's religious liberty. It is about the First Amendment, and it's the right to association under the Bill of Rights. It's the right to marriage, which is a fundamental right. And if they're now saying it's about religious liberty, I guess they thought that up 2 years after the case was brought, and it's clearly an afterthought because it wasn't mentioned during the trial. I just don't know where that's coming from. And the other question David gets to.
No, I'll say a word about that too, and that is that the First Amendment to the Constitution guarantees everyone's religious liberty, and it also guarantees that no one can impose their religious beliefs on anybody else. And what you have here is you have a group of people trying to impose their religious beliefs on somebody else. And that simply isn't consistent with the Constitution. They can exercise those religious beliefs. They can believe what they want to. They have the right to do that. And we respect that. But what they cannot do is impose those beliefs on the rest of us.
And I've seen no ballot measure filed by them, so I don't think any of us can comment on that.
And I don't know what kind of ballot measure they're going to file anyway. The whole thing about the Constitution is the voters of California, no matter how much we may hold them in high regard, cannot amend the United States Constitution.
A lot of what's happened in court throughout this year on Prop 8 has been these side issues. Tell me about what happens once these two particular side issues are resolved. Where do we go? What's the next step in this case? If you would.
Well, the next step is that the court will address the merits of the case. As both Terry and Ted indicated, the California Supreme Court has now answered the question, and so I think once these last two motions are cleared away, that means that the court will turn to deciding the underlying merits of this case. And so I think, as they said, we are stepping closer and closer to the day when people will get a decision on the merits of marriage equality.
I know the court has no deadline, but do any of you have any estimate on when the court might rule and whether it might rule on all three issues at once, the third being the underlying substance of the case?
I don't think any of us know. They don't tell us very much about that sort of thing. I do think that once the California Supreme Court rendered its decision on the standing issue, this court has been moving rapidly. It set a very short deadline to file, for us to file briefs on the standing question. That deadline has passed. Those briefs have been filed. It set these two issues for argument quickly on the same day at our request. We asked that, and the court is moving forward on that. I think the underbrush is being cleared out of the way. We've filed all the briefs on the merits. We had the argument on the merits on the constitutional question on December 6th. 1 year and 2 days ago right here. And I'm optimistic that we're going to get a decision on the merits soon from this court. And we're optimistic also about the outcome. Not only we're hopeful and optimistic that it's going to be soon, but that it's going to be a very favorable decision.
One last quick question. I'm kind of curious, today's proceedings, you guys were basically having to argue on behalf of Judge Walker. Tell me about that. It's just odd to me. He's not even a plaintiff, but he became the focus of both hearings today.
Well, I think, Terry, you might want to say something about that, but I think what we have said all along is what, Terry said here, at this podium, whether it was Judge Walker or any other judge, it was a particular bias against having a gay judge. And the irony of these two hearings, one, they're saying the judge was biased, therefore the trial was biased. The other, the actual tapes from trial, which would allow them, if they're right, to prove their case to the American people that the judge and that the trial was in fact biased. One would think it would be quite the opposite. If what they believe that they said in round 2 today is true, you would think they would be the ones arguing for the trial tapes to be made available for the world to see so that they could prove to the American people the very point that they have worked so hard to attempt to convince judges and the public of. One other thing I will add to that is, as you know, once the trial court was not broadcast live, one of the things that the American Foundation for Equal Rights committed to was ensuring that we would do everything we could to let the American public in on and see exactly what happened in that courtroom. In fact, the desperate attempts by the opposition to hide those tapes has created tremendous demand from around the country for those wanting to see what actually happened in that courtroom. If it's so important to hide, it must be something we really should all see. And to that end, a lot of things have happened. One, we had the premiere of 8LA, a play that was written based on the exact trial transcripts from the federal district trial that premiered in New York, with award-winning actors and cast playing the actual individuals on both sides from trial. On March 3rd, that same play will debut in Los Angeles, directed by Rob Reiner, as well as Michelle Reiner, a producer, and Adam Umhafer, as well as Lance, who brilliantly put together a fair portrayal of what happened in that courtroom. And at some point next week, we will be announcing the cast that will be playing those who are behind me and those who were previously at this podium. So be careful what you wish for.